Hi everyone. So in this video, I'm going to be going over just the general concept of movement and like the hierarchy of cell control. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a quick image of a bone, right? So I'm going to draw like a shoulder bone. It's a long bone, which means that its diaphysis, also known as the shaft, is significantly longer than the epiphysis, and it's like long, so on and so forth. So basically, the long part of the bone. So if the bone, let's just say this is the epiphysis, this is the diaphysis, and this is the second epiphysis, right? It's not quite as good, but you can kind of tell it's a bone. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna draw the muscle that directly attaches to it. So usually the muscle will attach to the tuberosity, which is a small ridge that runs over the bone. So basically this is the muscle. And since it's attaching directly to the bone, it's what we call, I'm gonna write it in blue, a skeletal muscle. Skeletal muscle. Okay, so it's a skeletal muscle, right? So what do we know about these muscles, right? All movement is initiated and controlled by the central nervous system. So to remember, the central nervous system is just the brain and the spinal cord, right? Cord. Okay, so the skeletal muscle is obviously not just one chunk. It's made up of small, small fibers, like the individual cells, called muscle fibers. Muscle fibers. So, how does the brain communicate with these muscle fibers? Well, it's through something called alpha motor neurons, which are found scattered throughout the brain and the spinal cord. So basically, um, let me draw a quick hierarchy because this is super important. It's very important to know. So movement is first initiated through the CNS, which is comprised of your brain and spinal cord, right? Brain, and I'm going to abbreviate spinal cord as SC. The CNS contains small units called alpha motor neurons. Alpha motor neurons. So what these do is they control a portion or a chunk of muscle fibers. So they control 100 or more muscle fibers, right? These control 100 or more muscle fibers. So how it works is your CNS, let me give you a quick example. Let's say you want to flex your bicep, right? Your brain will first, your motor cortex, more specifically stated, motor cortex will signal this related alpha motor neuron. How I like to remember it is like alpha. I don't know if you guys have heard of like the TikTok term alpha, like the alpha male, sigma male type thing. Since alpha is like on top, they're like the main neuron thing. You don't have to use that. I'm sorry. I know that was really bad. Which controls a bunch of muscle fibers. Um, so basically, the information from here tells the muscle fibers in your bicep to contract, right? Tells bicep to contract, bicep to contract. So, okay, this is the hierarchy. It's really important to know this. Just know that there are way more muscle fibers in alpha motor neurons and there are a bunch of alpha motor neurons scattered throughout the brain and the spinal cord. Okay, so now let's talk about ALS. So ALS is known as amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, which is basically the disintegration or the degeneration of alpha motor neurons. Basically, they start to disintegrate, right? And so now that we see the hierarchy, let's try and think about what ALS does, right? So we know that alpha motor neurons are the communication between the brain and the muscle fibers. So the brain and the biceps communicate using alpha motor neurons. So if alpha motor neurons are disintegrated, what does this do? This basically means that there's no longer any communication from the central nervous system to the muscle fibers, which means if there's no way for the brain to communicate, the muscle just won't receive any information. It's almost like your muscles are deaf to the brain. So that means it would result in paralysis, right? Paralysis. So basically, ALS is the disintegration of alpha motor neurons, which results in paralysis. So yeah, I thought ALS was a nice way to kind of connect all the concepts that we learned in this video. And yeah, that's it. As usual, if you have any questions, please comment or email me at stemwithwme@gmail.com. Thank you for watching. Bye.